Welcome, everyone, to Coffee with a Codex. My name is Dot Porter. I am a curator in the Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies. We call it SIMS. SIMS is a research and development group which is in the Kislak Center for Special Collections, Rare Books, and Manuscripts in the University of Pennsylvania Libraries. We work with manuscripts and Amy just put in the chat, yes, on the 21st. Did I put that on the 21st? Yes, we are meeting on the 21st. Thank you, Amy. We're going to be doing an unboxing. So the 28th is in 3 weeks, and we are meeting on the 21st, but it's a surprise. So I hope you come. Thanks, Amy. So we work with manuscripts. We have a few collections, one of which is the Schoenberg collection, and we're going to be looking at a manuscript from the Schoenberg collection today. We also have general medieval and Renaissance manuscripts. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started because there is a lot. If you can see, there's a lot of little flags in this one. So let's see what this is about. So this manuscript is LJS 490. LJS means it's from the collection of Lawrence Schoenberg. And this is a 15th century astronomical compilation is what the record calls it. It's a collection of a lot, and I mean a lot, of astronomical texts, and there's tables and there's diagrams. There's a whole lot going on in this manuscript, and we are going to start at the beginning and work our way through. We'll see if we make it all the way through. And I will help as well as I can to sort of guide you through this manuscript. So it's from Germany. It was made in around 1450, so the middle of the 15th century. It has a modern binding, so this is a more modern binding. It's a little bit worn. It's not super great, but it holds the book, which is the important thing. So we open it up, and we can see immediately it's made of paper, and it's written by a number of hands. So a lot of people played a role in making this book. It's not one person writing it all the way through. There are many people. I don't have an exact number, but you'll see as we go through that the hand will change from page to page. And it's a lot of, as I said, it's a lot of different texts. They don't seem to be in an order that was very well thought out. So, for example, there are several treatises on the Astrolab. There's a handful of treatises on the Astrolab, and there's also a few treatises on Computus, which is about computing the date of Easter. And they're not grouped together. They're sort of spread out, almost sprinkled through the book, which implies to me that this, because there are all these different hands and because there are these various texts that are sort of spread out through the manuscript, that this was a book that was sort of copied, being passed around and copied into over time as people found things they wanted to copy into it. This is my theory. Don't quote me. I guess you can quote me on it. I don't know if I'm right, but it seems like that. So we start out, and my identifications of the text that I'm going to tell you are based on the what's in the record. Not everything has been identified. So I am not sure what is exactly in this first section or on these first pages. But very early on, we get some kind of astronomical diagram here. So I can tell that this is an astronomical diagram basically because this is what astronomical diagrams look like. You have circles inside circles. These are, this is could be the sun, could be the moon. I'm not looking very carefully at what's written here. The text, I'll zoom in a little more so you can see this. So this is a German sort of, I think it says Gothic, Gothic cursive script in multiple hands. So this is what Gothic cursive script looks like. It's very distinctive, and it's hard for me to read, right? Although, as Amy points out over here, and she's right, I can see well enough that these are the signs of the zodiac around the side, which again is not something that's very surprising to see in an astronomical diagram, because what we're looking at is we're sort of looking up sort of into the sky, or it's like a diagram of the sky. So this is where you get the zodiac around the edges. So highly abbreviated. Yeah, there's a little bit in the chat. The script is highly abbreviated and messy, and that. Ooh, here's another one, another astronomical diagram to be expected. There we go. And again, not quite sure what this is. We've got some tables. This is sort of a nice introduction because this is what we're going to be seeing as we go through. We'll be seeing more diagrams, we'll be seeing more tables, and a lot more of this Gothic, German Gothic script. The little bit of decoration that there is the sort of little red lines that are drawn through. And this is something I've seen. I see this in other manuscripts we have too that are written around the same time in Germany. You see this sort of red decoration, rubrication there. So it's just a little bit of that. So let's skip ahead to the first thing that there is that we know has been identified. We're on 13 recto. This is the tables of solar declination. And I had to look this up because I didn't know what solar declination is. It has to do with the angle of the sun to the person standing on the ground at the equator at noon. So these are charts to track that. If anyone knows more, please put it in the chat, because what I saw as I was going through is that there's this, I think that's a G. Amy, is that a G? And then there's an M with a mark over it and a Z with a mark over it. I think the Z might be zenith, because the zenith is one of the things that we're looking at. I'm not sure what M is or G, but these letters show up at the top of tables, a lot of the tables that we're going to be seeing. So not entirely sure, and I'm not entirely sure, what the numbers are, but it shows that there was a very scientific approach. They were looking at the sky, they were measuring it. This was very scientific work that they were doing to sort of trace the stars and other things in the sky. So that's a table. And then we have empty pages and a few things. So we're going to see a lot of blank pages. There are a lot of blank pages going through. I also want to point out, if you've noticed, maybe you didn't, there are numbers up at the top, in the top right corner. So here we have 13, and then 48. At some point before we had the book, somebody went through and numbered all of the pages, or I should say all of the folios, because they only numbered the front, the front of the pages in pencil, over on the far corner. And then more recently, maybe even Amy did this, I'm not sure, somebody went through and numbered in pencil over here. And there's a difference between these two numbers. There are quires that are missing, and there will be more as we go through. There's quires missing further on. Quires are bundles of pages, basically. So the book that we have is a lot shorter than what it used to be when it was originally made, or at least when it was numbered. So it's been taken apart and put back together. So Amy is pointing out the page gives a good view of the of the numbers. Yes. So let's see. I think this is a 7. Is this this is the 5, right? Is the little loopy one? No? Tell me what that is. 4. Yes. 4 is the loopy one. 7, and where's the, is that a 5? 5 looks different. Is this a, oh no, you can't see that. Is that the 5 there? Yeah, so they look quite different. So, oh yeah, even better to follow there. 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see it really well there. So there you go. So it's shorter than it used to be. All right, now we get our first treatise on the Astrolab. And I was pleased to see that I could actually see, it says Astrolab up here. It has been abbreviated. There's a little O up here, so Astrolab. And that's about all that I can read on this page. So this is about 5 pages of text. Unfortunately, astrolabes are really neat. If you don't know what they are, you've never seen one, they're kind of round and metal, and they have plates that fit together, and it's used to do all kinds of things, but you can measure angles in the sky, and you can track the movement of planets and stars and find where they are. That's what an astrolabe is for. So diagrams are really neat, but there isn't one there, but that's okay. Then the next thing we have here is a table of fixed stars. Fixed stars are basically stars. They're things that are in the same place in the sky relative to what's around them, as opposed to planets, which move, which kind of move around in different kinds of patterns. And you have to remember, at the time that this was being written and referred to, people believed that the Earth was in the center of the solar system, and so that's just a thing to kind of keep in mind, that they're working within this belief system. So I think the fixed stars are here, and again I'm seeing the G and the M with the mark over it. The mark over the M means that it's abbreviated for a word. That's what that means. I'm not actually, I think this is the fixed stars. This, I noticed, has months. It was January, February, March, and then July, August, September, and it goes on down the page. And then we have Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Leo. I'm not sure who comes next. But so this month, and then in the month, the sign of the zodiac that comes in the month. So we are doing some kind of tracking of the time that we're switching from one zodiac sign to the next. So that's what's happening there, which is kind of neat. And it also, it sort of is an example of how they thought about what we would call astrology, looking at the signs of the zodiac as part of their astronomical work. So next we have a treatise on the sundial, and this is pretty neat. So you all probably know what a sundial is. A sundial is a time-telling device that you would have out, and you look at the angle of the sun. It uses the angle of the sun to tell the time, basically. And the nice thing about this one is we actually have some really nice diagrams. So again, not entirely sure what is happening, but with the numbers, remember it's time. So we have noon or 12 here. So we're moving up to noontime, and then going through the rest of the day. And I think that what we're looking at, because the center is moving further and further up, and so it could be because depending on where you are, what your latitude is, the angle of the sun is going to change, and also the time of year is going to change. So I'm guessing what this is it's just different examples of where you place the spire of the sundial in a way that it's going to give you an effective time telling. Because if you take a sundial from one place to another, it won't work because they have to be made for a particular place. So that's pretty cool. Really practical, right? Really practical stuff. Here's a very cool diagram, and again, I wish I knew what this was doing. I assume it's attached to the sundial, but it's a very neat thing. So the next thing, first of all, I want to point out we have a new person. There's a new hand. So this writing is very different from this one over here. So we have somebody else who's come in, and they have included a table of elevation of the pole star in various cities. And I found it really difficult to read this. I was hoping I could figure out what some of these cities might be. Maybe Amy can, I'm not even going to try. It's very hard for me. But what this is depending on where you are, again, the pole star, the North Star, is going to be in a different, either higher or lower in the sky in a different angle. And so what this is doing is giving us the angles. So number 3 is Constance, which is in Germany, a city in Germany. And I think the record says that a lot of these cities are in Germany. There are also some in, not only on this page, but I think throughout the manuscript. Not only Germany, there's some Italy and other cities in Europe, which I think it's very likely that, right, they're copying pieces as they come to them, and or as they get access to them. And so it could be that they get access to texts that are in fact, from Italy, and so that's what they're copying. Let's see, Frankfurt towards the bottom. Oh, Frankfurt. Is that Frankfurt? See, as soon as you say what it is, I can kind of make it out. All right. So now we have a treatise on the quadrant. Quadrants are very interesting. They're basically, as the name implies, it's like a quarter of an astrolabe. So they do the same kinds of things that an astrolabe does, but instead of being a full circle, it's a quarter. And I think, here we go. Here is a diagram of a quadrant, and you see them sometimes in illustrations too, of people holding them. They were easier to use than astrolabes. They were sort of smaller because it's only a quarter of the size. So they were really popular too. So there's that. And here is another little diagram of an astrolabe, of a quadrant, right, which is pretty neat. Okay, another treatise on an astrolabe. So that's that. Another one, and we're back again to this. I don't know if this is the same person or if it's another person writing in a similar kind of hand and with the red added. And blank leaves. Again, there's blank leaves here. So the next little section is digressions on Johannes Sacrobosco. Sacrobosco, I believe he was 12th century, 11th or 12th century, and he wrote a treatise that was incredibly popular, translated into lots of languages, and was copied and copied and copied. And so lots of commentary survived too, and so that's what we have here is just a few pages digressing on him, including a little table. A little table here. Again, we have the G and the M. I'm going to figure out I should have figured out what it means before this, but I will figure it out now because I'm really curious. Let's see. And then here, another blank page, a treatise on practical geometry. And there's some fun little marginal diagrams here, I guess you call them. All kinds of little boxes and triangles and whatever that's supposed to be, a star, I'm not sure. I like that one. But again, really practical stuff. Another treatise on the Astrolab. Imagine that. And again, a different hand. This is different from the other ones we've seen before. We're lacking the red marks, and some also little notes. It's kind of hard to tell if those were added later or if the scribe added them himself, but there they are. So what's next? Let's see. Right. Oh, there was some confusion here. Yeah, I don't know, Amy, if you want to look at this, because it says 43 recto through 49 recto is the treatise on an astrolabe, but then 45 recto through 49 recto is a treatise on the baculus. So there was overlap there that was a little confusing. And since I can't read it, it's a little hard to kind of tell. But that's fine. So the baculus, we haven't mentioned yet. It's also called the Jacob's staff. Let's see, 45. The page here said baculus. Oh, right there, baculus. Of course, again, as soon as you say it, I see it. So a baculus, also known as a Jacob's staff, this was another instrument that could be used to measure the angle of something in the sky. And it was, as opposed to let me zoom out a little bit, as opposed to an astrolabe, which would be circular, or a quadrant, which is sort of a piece of metal that's a quarter of a circle. A Jacob's staff is like a long piece of probably metal, but it's a staff, and then you have another staff that they're connected here, and you can kind of move them, but they're big, and you sort of hold them up. So another kind of similar tool here, and so here we have the baculus treatise there, how we use that. And then on 50, let's see, another table. Oh, this is fun. Again, I'm not entirely sure what this is. It could be the spheres, like the moon. You've got the moon and then the planets going out. I've never seen it quite like that, but that might be what that is. That's another typical diagram that you see. Another treatise on an astrolabe. This one's quite short, just half a page, but you got to include it. And then this is followed by something that's not identified in the record. There's several things we've got, but they're fun. So we've got sort of circle diagrams in the margins, circles overlapping circles, some sort of special alphabet. It almost looks like, what do you call it? Not chemical, alchemical, like notations there. The symbols, I guess they're planet symbols. So there's something interesting happening there. Another section here. There's a diagram that's pretty neat. Where's the diagram? I think it's a little bit. Here we go. So here is, actually this whole page is really fun because you have what appears to be the ending of something here, and then everything else on the page, you have to rotate it. It's like reading House of Leaves. You have to rotate it sideways so you can read the text here, and then there's this, whatever this table is. And I think this is oriented this way, and I think what this is the Earth, and then what you get is the middle of the hottest part is the middle, and then the coldest parts are top and bottom, and then it's sort of showing where it's easy enough to live. on the planet. And so I think that's what, I'm doing that without reading it. But then we also have, I think, the zodiac signs around that. So, yeah, but that's very neat. All right, then we move on. We have yet another hand, and this is a treatise on the computus, which I mentioned before. The computus, very, very important for the church, because this is how you computed the date of Easter, which is a movable feast. It's not like Christmas, which is always on the same day. Easter moves around, and you have to be able to calculate it. And so there was a whole sort of, method of calculating it, because you want to be very careful not to celebrate it on the wrong day. And one of the things that the church sort of had to deal with from very early on is that the Eastern Orthodox Church had a different way of calculating Easter, and the Celtic Church, that is the Irish Church, also did, and so it caused problems in early England because people were celebrating Easter on different days, which is not great. I'm going to point out here that there's different writing on the page. It looks like there's, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little hard to tell, is this the same and this the same, but many people writing one after the other, which is pretty interesting. So I just realized it's 12:29. I've been so into this, and I moved more slowly than I wanted to. So just really quickly, the rest of the sections, we have a section on the analysis of urine. So we're actually getting into medicine here in a really explicit way. Medicine, we've got another computus section, and again, we have more diagrams and text written sideways from where we're looking at it. This is a section on the traveler's dial, which is like a sundial that you can carry with you, which is pretty interesting. We have more on the baculus and more on the quadrants. We have excerpts from a known text. We have new and full moons, lots of stuff. It's 12:30. I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye. But before I do, Linda points out clocks are going forward this weekend. Yes, I will send out an announcement to make sure to take that into account, and I apologize for not doing that already. So we are moving forward. Thank you, Amy, for helping. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Sorry I didn't make it all the way through the manuscript, but I hope I'll see you again, and everybody have a great week. Bye.